It's hard to know where to start at this point in the conversation, but there's a few issues I should make clear. First of all, I'm here as a representative of Amnesty International, and to state very clearly our global policy on marriage equality for same-sex couples. Amnesty International globally calls upon states to end discrimination in civil marriage laws based on either sexual orientation or gender identity. We do so because discrimination is not an option. It's not an optional, non-discrimination is not an optional add-on to any functional republic, to any functional democracy. It's a bottom line, it's a minimum standard. Non-discrimination is a minimum standard in international human rights law. And I'd like to support what Conor said in relation to David's assertion that it's not discriminatory to treat different situations differently. Again, he left off the crucial part of that sentence. It's not discriminatory to treat different situations differently, providing there is an objective reason for doing so. We celebrate difference by recognizing difference, by accommodating difference, but not by punishing difference or by excluding difference, people who are different in some form from the same rights protections and regard as others. Carol raised, and again it's come up as a regular theme in this debate generally, and I presume beyond just your conversation here today, questions that really arise around adoption and assisted reproduction. Those are pressing social policy questions. Those are the kinds of questions that we need our legislators to resolve, and they need to resolve them urgently. They are neither unique to, nor in any way defining of, the issue that's before you. Whether or not same-sex couples should be granted full equality before the law and granted the right to marry. Let's, if I can, deal very quickly with the question of parenting in the social sciences. I mean, ask a social scientist one question, you'll find 6 that will tell you a different answer 5 minutes later. And nevertheless, when you look at all of that, and the data is somewhat limited, and I know you heard this morning, but when you look at all of the data that's been presented, there is no compelling data that suggests there are negative or less better outcomes for children who are parented by same-sex couples. That's a simple reality, and I think you had that reinforced this morning. Equally, one other point that I thought was compelling from the expert evidence this morning was that you're considering the constitutional definition of marriage here. And you're being asked to consider whether or not we should change the Constitution in a way that would fundamentally alter, in the view of those who oppose this measure, the definition of marriage on the basis that marriage is all about children. Well, this morning you heard that actually under Irish constitutional law, marriage is not all about children. A family under Irish constitutional law is a married couple with or without children. And I think that's a really important marker for your considerations. Issues relating to children need to be considered not from the perspective of adults, but from the perspective of children. And I absolutely support, at an individual level, and as Amnesty International, we very much support the view that we have to consider issues around identity, around genetic history, around the right of a child to know who they are, around respecting and understanding their cultural diversity, as part of that question when we make decisions around children's care. In this country, it's the Irish, it's social workers who decide whether or not people are fit to adopt. It's really important to understand that in Ireland, lesbian and gay people can't just parent through some biological arrangement, whether it be through the normal biological arrangement that might happen in a different relationship, or whether it be through some form of assisted human reproduction. Same-sex people in this Ireland parent by applying to adopt. And today in Ireland, lesbian and gay individuals are being assessed and approved for adoption. What's remarkably different for them, vis-a-vis married couples who apply to adopt, is that their relationship, their de facto family situation will be considered as part of that assessment. But when the state then sanctions the adoption of the child that will become the child of this family, that child will only have a legal relationship with one of its parents. So by design, under our current situation, this state, this republic, sanctions the adoption of children who it then refuses to provide family security to. That is not child-centred. That is not child-focused. That is not good social policy. And that is not good human rights practice. So if we're going to address questions in relation to adoption, we need to address those questions. But denying same-sex couples access to marriage is not just a denial of their rights. It absolutely perpetuates the denial of the rights of children who they will parent and provide for and love.
Thanks, Colm.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and pick up on the general themes, but I suppose one point that I would like to make, because it's constantly said and it's simply not true anymore, marriage is not always contracted between people of the opposite sex. Marriage, David, has not always been traditionally contracted between one man and one woman. And I'm not suggesting, by the way, that we should move towards the model of marriage that has been the case in other countries, where marriage indeed might be contracted between one man and several women. That's not a road I'd like us to go down. But increasingly over the last 15 years, marriage is regularly and legally contracted between two people of the same sex in many countries across the world. And do you know what changed? Gay people got married. That's what changed. Their children were protected. Their lives, their relationships and their families were treated with equal regard and respect by their societies, by their communities, and that's what I'd like to see happen in Ireland. I'm going to make a very personal statement now, if that's okay. I'm a man who's married to a man, and I have children. And for lots of reasons over the last 20 years, I've regularly stood up and talked about intimate parts of my life because I believe that it's been important to public discourse in my society. It hasn't always been easy. It's very often challenging. It's very often quite difficult. I'm really tired of doing it. I'm really, really tired of it. Monday morning, I'll get up at 7 o'clock. I'll get my children out of bed. I'll make them their school lunches, and I'll drop them to school, and then I'll come to work. Monday evening, I'll come home. My 16-year-old is doing his junior cert this year. I'll probably kill him because he hasn't done enough study. And I'll listen to my 14-year-old who tells me about all the different stuff that happened because she's in first year in school, and I'll try and make sure I pay enough attention to her. I'll get up the next morning and do the same thing. At the weekend, I'll get up, I'll drop him to grinds, I'll run her around Gorey because she has better social life than anybody else in the rest of the house, and then I'll try and do the shop and I'll prepare food for the rest of the week. That's my experience as a parent. I hope that their experience of being parent is that they are loved, that they are cared for, that they are cherished. My route to parenthood is unusual. My route to parenthood is possibly even unique, but my children know who they are. They understand their identity. They come from a different cultural background and perspective. Their cultural background and perspective is not just known, it's celebrated and respected and is a crucial part of our family and of our home life. I love my children. And my children love me. And what I would like more than anything else from this republic, from my republic, is that we would be treated with respect and with regard and celebrated on an equal footing with every other parent and family who in their own flawed, unique way tries to get through their life as best they possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you.